Hello again, and welcome to another of Mosaic's coffee breaks. Mosaic is, of course, a collaboration of the organisations shown at the front of this presentation, and that collaboration focuses very much on the ownership issues associated with mid-market law firms. And when we say ownership, we mean everything associated with ownership, mergers and acquisitions, partnership structures, succession planning, partner exits, and everything associated with all of those issues. I hope you enjoy this broadcast.
Welcome to the latest Mosaic coffee break. This one will be one of our last of 2024 when we have a look back at the year so far, and no doubt we'll pay some attention to the first budget delivered by a British female Chancellor. So it's really much a look back before we do our inevitably inaccurate predictions for 2024. So welcome everybody, and let's start then by perhaps looking back at the year and then moving on to our comments on the budget. Who'd like to start us off with how 2024's looked?
I go. 2024, yet another busy year, huge amount of restructuring within the legal sector, lots going on, a lot of M&A work, a lot of restructuring work, a lot of changing of entity work, partners in, partners out, succession planning, which if you've watched these before, I have been banging on about for about 15 years. Still seems to be the same issue as it ever was, so now talking to partners in their 80s who are contemplating retiring soon. So busy, more of the same. I think some of the deals have been a bit harder to get over the line than maybe they were in the past few years, whether people are a little bit more prickly about it, whether there's actually less money floating around within the deals, therefore people are sort of playing hardball a bit more, and maybe some of the deals look a bit like fire sales, and due diligence is throwing up some quite unpleasant issues when you start opening the bonnet and kicking the tires.
Pricing's always been about giving clients choice and improving law firm profitability, but galloping over the horizon at a ferocious pace now, of course, is legal tech and AI, and it's inevitable that that's going to bring downward pressure on pricing. Quite how quickly and quite how dramatic, no one knows. But that, I think, served to increase demand for my pricing training. And without jumping ahead to the budget at this stage, I very much noticed how law firms just said, whoa, in July, and waited for the budget. So I took almost no new bookings between July and the budget. And now, of course, it's picked up again. It seemed to be very much that over 3-month delay from election to the budget day brought a period of uncertainty that our economy didn't need.
I think I mirror both of those views. It's been a year of two halves, I think. One from the euphoria of the Tories going and the change of government there in terms of such uncertainty coming up to the election. Then the period of just not knowing what's happening, except for the fear that capital gains tax was going to go up so significantly. I had a lot of work coming up to budget day, as I suspect the vast majority of accountants and lawyers did, expecting it to fall off after budget day. And in fact, after budget day, it's gone completely the opposite way. It's boom time again because of the changes to inheritance tax, which proves the old saying that accountants and lawyers do far better under a Labour government than they do under a Tory government. And I think that's just proving the case.
Well, let's hoping so. This is the moment then that we do segue a little bit into the budget. I think from what I've seen with my clients, and obviously most corporates are mostly unaffected. If corporation tax has not changed, and she said she will not be changing it in the life of the Parliament, and you can plan off this, you can plan off that. The obvious change, of course, was for employers with national insurance, and I think what's been really interesting for me there is I've crunched various numbers with various clients and we've worked it through. Obviously, you also get changes in the employment allowance. National insurance is itself deductible to corporation tax. So as it goes up, actually your corporation tax bill goes down. And so it's been interesting to sort of crunch through that number and analyze it. And obviously these firms are going to have increased employers' national insurance. I'm not for a second suggesting that they won't, but it's been really interesting to work through actually how much is that, and is it maybe not quite as much as we thought, or how do we sort of protect ourselves from it, and what do we do perhaps about pay rises, or what do we do about that extra 1 or 2 members of staff that we were thinking we might get next year. And so for, I think, all my clients now, we've sort of effectively balanced the budget for 2025 and allowing for the increase in national insurance, and sort of got ourselves back to a net nil, if you see what I mean, but perhaps at the expense of what would have been, we were going to hire 5 new staff next year. Now it's only 3 because those 2 are the balancing figure that we needed. It's that sort of maths. But I suppose it's interesting to me, despite quite a lot of noise in the media, that actually I think the sort of law firms are relatively unaffected, or you can square the circle in your budget relatively easily. I'm sure that is different if you're in something like hospitality, but we're not. So there you go.
I think that's
to insert a
very
fact paper, Tom, between thee and me, all the clients I've spoken to since the budget are still fully engaged in the war for talent, and salary increases is one of the principal tools in their toolkit for winning talent. So I wonder if our sector is buoyant enough to take the national insurance rise in its stride. One thing I have seen people link to this, of course, is the downward movement in Bank of England base rates, and we're moving swiftly away from client account interest being our star fee earner to a reversion to more normal levels. And of course, the straws in the wind from the SRA on client account interest generally. That's perhaps one for our look ahead to 2025.
I suspect it is, but I will plug the fact that the consultation is live until the middle of January, and please, law firms, please reply to it, because there really is some very, very chunky changes in that consultation. I think this is not one to let lie. I will definitely reply, and I certainly will be replying to it, for example.
I was at the COFA conference possibly last week or the week before, and they're pushing that. It was quite a sobering day, really. I mean, not that an entire day of compliance is ever fun, but it was even less fun than I was expecting.
I must bang the drum a little bit the other way. I think you're probably right, Nigel. Lawyers, our sector is going to be relatively protected because of the war for talent. So that my concern is, and I do a lot in the farming and family business sector, and they really are going to certainly everyone I talk to is absolutely up in arms about the changes to inheritance tax and the issues that means that they will have to conserve resources significantly over the next few years to actually meet those inheritance tax bills. Family businesses will probably be able to do it more easily than farms, who will have to be forced to sell off land, because farms are traditionally asset rich but profits poor. But even the family businesses who've got the reserves to get the money out of their companies to pay the tax, and farms to get their money out of the companies, it's tax on tax. They're going to have to pay dividends, which will suffer income tax, before they then pay the inheritance tax. It's really very worrying, but it's great for review of wills, new planning, trusts, and all the other planning tools that we can have.
As we've learnt over the years, Howard, wherever there are challenges, there are opportunities.
And lawyers and accountants.
Absolutely. So thank you all for your contributions, and thank you for watching this Mosaic Coffee Break. If we don't broadcast another of these before Christmas, have a good one. All the best.
All the best.